to be able to kind of roll in a serious way with us, I want to let you know they are having the Kinshasa meeting across the hall, and I mean this in dead seriousness. Like, if you need to leave, like if you need to excuse yourself, that is okay. But we're going to be talking about mature stuff around here. And so, as I've asked for the last couple weeks, I always want your maturity and your honesty, especially when it comes to this topic. So we're talking about love and sex and dating and all of this fun stuff. So we're going to have questions coming. We're going to take turns kind of answering, hopping in, all that sort of stuff. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. Let's see the first question that we have here. I believe.
Wait, can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Are those questions asked by the students?
Yeah.
You didn't make these up?
Well, you know. It was a collaborative effort, and I do want to say I grabbed some of the questions were asked in multiple ways, so I kind of combined some of them and put them along the same theme. So you might see questions that you asked that aren't quite like you asked it, and that's why, because there are other people who asked similar things. So, all right. So here's the first question: how do you know when it is time to take a friendship to the next level? Like, how old should you be? How long should you know them? All of that sort of stuff. You guys want to hop in?
Well, I would like to first start off and say, if your name's Riley Rosser, I say never. Never mind.
Just so you all know, Riley is dating your daughter.
My daughter.
Yeah, so let's get that out there.
So every question asked tonight, the answer is no for Riley Rosser. Let's just get that straight.
That is a good start.
We'll go from there.
I like that.
Okay. But yeah, well, if you're asking me when it's time to take the friendship to a next level, I don't know. It's a hard question based on feelings, and it's about maturity, and it's also about, yes, age, and what you mean by taking it to the next level. Next level meaning a relationship, how you treat each other. There's multiple answers to the same question. Okay, girls, does that guy respect you? Does he pressure you? Does he do the things that are going to make you be somebody that you don't want to be or not be? That's not the type of guy you want to take anything to the next level with. Riley Rosser. Just kidding. I won't say Riley Rosser the rest of the night. Okay, so again, go ahead. If anybody else.
Yeah, I think, and if anybody else wants to hop in, I think some of the things that you want to, that would be really helpful as far as going to the next level that are important to have in your life is, are you both pursuing Jesus? I would say that's the number one thing. Do you have people in your life that can speak into your relationship? So do you have someone, maybe it's a life group leader, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's a mentor or somebody like that who you can bounce ideas off of and say, hey, do you think I'm ready? Do you think I'm mature enough? And I think you should be old enough that you can talk about these things. So here's a really good sign. If you're not old enough to talk about these things with your parents, with a mentor, with someone who's older, you are probably not mature enough to go to whatever you think the next level is. That's a good indicator, I think, good starting point. So, you guys got anything to add, ladies? No? Okay. All right, next question. How do you get over your ex? Anybody want to?
I can help it.
You got
Chocolate? Yeah, that's what, it's funny.
Ice cream? Chocolate fountain?
Well, I would say before, I didn't grow up in a Christian home, so that's kind of how I got over my exes was emotional eating, seriously. But now, the perspective that I have, I think it would just be relying on the Lord. That relationship with Christ is the center. And I know that kind of sounds for you guys it might be oh, it's the brown squirrel answer, but I've had the other side of it. So for me, that is the answer to that, is making Christ the center of just, getting over that and having him be the one that fills you.
I think it's a really good time too, to maybe amp up some other areas or things in your life that you love or feel are a part of who you are. So maybe that is reaching out to some friends and saying, hey, like, let's get together, or maybe for you, I don't know, whatever your love of a hobby is, that you know, can spend time pouring yourself into that. I think it's a really good time to also evaluate, you know, anytime perhaps a relationship changes or something goes a different way than we had expected or maybe even hoped for too. There can be a lot of emotions and pain and devastation or lots of different thoughts with that, and I think it's a really good time to spend some time reflecting as well. So a lot of times we can get so wrapped up in somebody that maybe while we were dating someone, some of the things that were really important to us, like some of our friends, maybe went to the wayside a little bit more than we realized, or maybe our identity actually was a lot more wrapped up in that other person than we thought. And then when that relationship changes, maybe it's a new perspective to say, you know what, that's actually not who I am. I need to refocus and rethink about who am I? And that's not defined by any other person. You know, we've talked a lot about that and who our identity is. So it's just a good time to even, you know, maybe it is that time to step out, you know, back into some friendships or spend some more time with those friends, and just reevaluate even where am I putting my identity? How am I asking other people to fulfill this? And is this something that only God can be fulfilling? And what are those things that can, in a sense, help me continue to grow and heal? You know, and that might be through life groups, through friendships, through sports activities, but kind of, I think, recentering yourself again in a way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if we're talking at a high school level, the people who are most devastated by broken relationships are the ones who have an unhealthy balance in their relationship, right? So there is a piece, like, I mean, when you end a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a dating relationship, there's going to be some pain in that. And as you get older and you, like, things get more serious, but things in your high school relationship probably shouldn't be getting so serious that you are completely devastated. So to me, like, that would be an indication that I don't have good balance in my life right now, as far as friends and you know, relationships with other people in my life. So, okay,
Wait. No, I wanted to just add that, you know, if you can't get over your ex and they have moved on and you are still in pain and pondering and just wishing the good old days or what have you, you're in bondage, okay? You are literally in bondage to that relationship. That other person, they're not thinking about you. They do not wake up thinking about you. You're in bondage to yourself, okay? What you need to do is break free from the chains, because that's basically, you're holding yourself down. You're holding yourself in bondage, okay? So that's one good way for you to break free from an ex.
that's good. All right, next question.
Now listen, I am so old, but we didn't have phones back then, but we would pass a note, okay? And just, or tell, hey, could you... So we never really had to do it face to face. It's similar to the way you guys have your phones in your hands now. You text, you whatever. But,
Handwritten note.
How do you ask them out without sounding like a creep?
well, I think it all goes back to respectfully. You know what I mean? There's a certain way that you can treat each other. I'm not going to just say from a man's perspective how to treat a girl or a woman. It's about respect, okay? If you can't respect them on just the ask out part, and you can't show them dignity even on the very beginning of the ask out part, then it's not going to happen. Girls, if he doesn't treat you with respect and dignity from the very beginning, don't expect that to change right away, if at all. So you got to be very careful of how some of these creeps in here, oh, excuse me, man, I didn't mean that. Some of these guys ask you out. You know? No, you're not creeps. I'm just kidding. See, you'll all be fathers someday.
Either of you two want to
Maybe.
I would say, hopefully you are you are friends with this person that you like, that you are already knowing them in deeper and deeper friendship, that you're respecting them, that you know their character, you know who they are, that if it's to the point where you're hoping to ask them out, hopefully you won't come off as a creep or feeling awkward, Because most of the times when I think of a creep or someone who's awkward or who is asking out somebody and really at the end of the day they don't even really know them, that to me turns out to be creepy because you don't know the person. You're perhaps maybe infatuated with the person or objectifying the person or whatever, that it's not based upon their true character, nor is it based upon a friendship. So while yes, maybe you want to just take a stab in the dark and, take a big leap, a big step out there to ask somebody out without really knowing them, I can understand maybe you would feel like, oh, she's gonna think I'm a creep, or he's gonna think I'm a creep, or whatever. Maybe the first step is just getting to know them as a friend to avoid the first creepy, awkward part. That would kind of be one of my takes on it.
Yeah, and then just act like a human would be another one. Like it's not creepy if you like to the point of like asking someone out. If you know them well enough, you're probably going to know that you both have some sort of interest in each other, right?
You're going to be doing it respectfully and out of place of knowing their heart and character.
Right, and so then if you want to like hang out with people, and if you're not at that point, it's not creepy to be like, hey, do you want to hang out with some friends Friday night? Or do you want to go get coffee? Like, that's not creepy, unless you just are really terrible at conversations, I guess. But the problem is we try and operate out of those lines of knowing someone, and I think that's where the creepiness, or like where people feel a little awkward or whatever, so. All right, next question is, how do you know if you love somebody? How do you know if you love somebody? Got anything, April?
Well, it's funny because, like I said, when I first was dating at your age, it was totally different about how, I loved someone by how I felt. It was all about feelings and all of that. And now, like, being married and gave my life to the Lord as an adult, and just like learning, I realized like there's nothing to do with feelings in that. And I think you've talked about this before too, like obviously you love Randy, but like it's something that you pour into your relationship. You make a decision to love a person. Like I'm not gonna in my relationship, like if I was dating Dave and there were like all these red flags, it would be probably, we wouldn't work out, but I have made it, he's not gonna be perfect. He's just not gonna be perfect. So I guess my point is that it's work, and it's a choice that you make in a relationship to work at it and to, yeah, I guess I'm not there to bring that work.
Well, also, there's different types of love. There really is different types of love, because you can be physically attracted to somebody, and you really, really are physically attracted to them. It doesn't mean you love them. Yes, you want to date them because you're physically attracted. It doesn't mean you're in love with them, okay? I mean, there's a lot of attractive people out there. It doesn't mean you love them all. You know what I mean? So there's different types of love. You have to be very careful and guarded with what kind of love you're talking about. If you really love somebody and you really, really want to be in a relationship with them, then you should be good friends. You should be, have the same interests. You should want to hang out. You should laugh together. Yes, you're going to have disagreements, but all that deep love is all part of a friendship. April's my best friend, and I'm not just saying that because she's sitting here. I'm saying that because we enjoy being together. Yes, we're married, but we still enjoy being together. And that's what love is. It's when you really enjoy being with somebody, not just physically because, oh, they're pretty or they're handsome or whatever you want to call it. It goes well beyond that. So there's that type of love, and then there's just a friendship love, or maybe for some of you younger kids in here, freshmen, it's that infatuation type love, of just kind of almost admiring them and not necessarily loving them.
Yeah, I love that part. So I was actually watching, Bethany and Clayton and I were watching a TED Talk last week, and it was talking about infatuation and even how our brains chemically work. You could be infatuated with someone where your brain is sending you like signals that you like this person for up to 13 months before it even wears off. So your brain is even like working against you in infatuation. So if you compare that to like the average high school dating relationship, like it's hard to even know when you truly are in love. Now I'm not saying you can't love someone before 13 months. You clearly can. But you know, the biblical perspective of what love is 1 Corinthians 13, right? Love is patient, love is kind. It's not self-seeking, right? Like this whole beautiful chapter of this is what it looks like to love. And so I think, you know, you got to get in your mind trying to decipher, okay, is this just that I like this person, I find this person interesting, like there's this infatuation piece, or do I really love them? Do I care as much about them as I care about myself? Like that's kind of a good barometer, I think. So, all right, next question. Is laying down and kissing going too far? Is laying down and kissing going too far?
Let's ask Riley.
Riley's gonna need counseling tonight. We're not taking funds for Yossi tonight. We're taking funds for Riley's counseling.
I'm not picking on Riley. Now, I'm not naive, okay? Yes, I can continue to stay on track and say I'm old, but I'm not naive. To know that some of you in this room have been doing this similar act, okay? And this leads to nowhere. In my eyes, this leads to nowhere good, okay? Because it's like the chicken chasing the thing, whatever, you know, the little pebble that you throw in front of them, right? It's gonna keep going. This is where the beginning is, okay? And then this is just gonna lead to the next level, and to the next level. And girls, let me tell you, if any guy ever pressures you into doing something like this, or even attempts to make you feel bad for not doing something like this, and pushing you beyond your comfort zone, you need to go. You need to go, it ain't worth it, bounce right away. I'm just saying.
Bounce.
And that's not just, yeah, bounce. Right on out the door. And I'm not just saying that as a father, I'm saying that as a man, okay? A man who was a teenager, just like you guys, okay? Experience, I've worked with youth for a lot of you I've known since you were babies. A lot of you I've known since way down there in your lower years. I'm just telling you from experience, okay? For me, this leads to nowhere good.
Either of you want to hop in there?
Yeah, I would probably define anything being too far as anything that makes you sexually aroused. So there's a good chance that laying down and kissing would probably be too far. There's a good chance maybe for some of you even holding hands or sitting really close next to somebody could be too far. And I think that's the question, you know, to maybe redefine that question of, is the question really that we should be asking, is it, are we going too far? Or is it,
Well, basically, like, we always want to ask the question always gets brought up when we're in these types of discussions, like, how far can I go without crossing the line, right? Like, how much pleasure can I get out of this? How much can I enjoy this? And really the question we want to be asking is, if we're trying to pursue Jesus, is what does it look like for me to care about this person in a way that is pushing them closer to Jesus, right? And like removing myself and my desires from the scenario and making that the priority. Because if you make that the priority, that really changes like the way you enter into the relationship, right?
and that goes back to then all the other questions. That's me choosing to put someone else and respecting them. Even, you know, you're respecting yourself, and that's then even taking the next step of saying, I respect you so much, or I'm choosing to love you in this way, that I'm not going to ask that question of how far can I push the line, but how can we pursue Jesus, and what would that even look like so that we don't go to that situation or to that place that would compromise both of us.
And these feelings that you have to even pursue this is natural, okay? It's not, I mean, as you grow older, guys, testosterone builds, girls, I mean, I don't know, hormones, whatever you call them.
I think that's called estrogen.
Yeah. All I know is it's natural, okay? That's just part of life, it's natural. But you know, I'm sure the question is gonna arise, you know, biblically speaking, this is still out of bounds when it comes to marriage, you know, right? You know, when you guys are just kids. I mean, you're just kids. I don't think any of you are old enough in here to die for your country yet. Are you 18 yet, any of you? So you can die for your country? Okay, you can go figure it out. All right, I was just curious, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what you want to do is set like your boundaries, and you want to know those going in. We talk about that regularly around here, right? Like, you need to know how far you're going to go before you enter the relationship. And a good just rule of thumb is to stay vertical, not horizontal. That's just a good way of saying it, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to handle the next one. The question is this: do you go to hell if you are gay? So this is a good question, and the answer, I think, is this. If you are, I guess there's two different people that could be asking this question. The first, you know, if you aren't gay or don't have same-sex attraction and you're asking, then I think, like, you don't even need to worry about the answer to this question, because it just seems like you're coming across as wanting to like lord this over somebody else, or thinking that someone else has issues that you don't, or something like that. And if you're in here and you have same-sex attraction, I would say this: the answer is no, right? Like the reason that the Bible gives for why we don't go to heaven or why we don't spend eternity with Jesus is because we are broken human beings. We have sin in our life, and we all have different sin in our life. And God does not view one sin as, you know, this excludes you, or this is okay, or this one's better than that. We all have this brokenness inside of us. And if we don't turn to Jesus and say, Jesus, I need you to fix me, I want to, you know, accept your sacrifice for my sin, then that's what excludes us. And so I think what happens is a lot of times in Christianity and just people in general, like, we want to compare. We want to make the things that we do not as bad as others, or the things that we do better than other people. And so, but you guys can jump in if you want. Next question is this. I'm a girl and I look at pornography. How can this be? Well, here's what I would say to this. It's kind of along the same lines as the last question, right? Like, the reality is we all have sin in our lives. We all have brokenness in our lives. And so, I think the general perception is that pornography is a man's issue, that it's something that men fall into. But if you were to read statistics, I was looking at some this past week, 65% or more of females in our generation are somewhat actively looking at pornography. So this isn't just like a man issue, this is like a people issue. And here's what I would say is, sin doesn't discriminate based on your sex. Sin wants to pull you in and distort you and get you thinking in ways that are not true of what it means to live in a way that is pursuing God. And so here's what I'd say. If you struggle, whether you're a man or a woman, and you struggle with pornography, you need to deal with that, because it is something that is happening in your life that is leading you into bondage, like you were talking about earlier, Dave. Like, it is shackling you and it is holding you down. It is very shame-filled, and it has the potential to destroy current relationships and future relationships. And so the Bible talks about sin very seriously, and Jesus says, look, if you even if you lust after a woman, you've committed adultery, right? That's kind of the way Jesus frames it. And so if you're lusting after people, yeah, and then he goes on and he says, like, hey, you need to, if your hand causes you to sin, you need to cut off your hand. Like, Jesus takes it very seriously. So, like, if this is a problem for you, do not think that, oh, I'll just deal with this when I get older, or, oh, it's okay right now. Like, you need to fight now. Like, this is your spiritual battle in your life, I would say right now, that you need to experience victory in. And I fully believe you can experience victory in it, but you need to tell someone, someone that you can trust, someone that's older, someone that can walk through it with you. And the second thing is, like, Jesus talks about this idea of cutting off your hand. Guys, I'm not naive to know that we all walk around with little computers in our pockets, and we have access to things that we can instantly be looking at things that we shouldn't be. So maybe you have, a smartphone, and you need to go back to a dumb phone, or you need to get rid of your phone, or you need to move your computer out of your room, or you need to, whatever it is. Like, this is serious stuff that you need to deal with. So
There also, you can have an accountability partner, one of your guys in your life groups, where there's apps where you can have, if you start doing something bad on the computer or your phone, it'll email your buddy right away and say, hey,
yeah, they have software.
yeah, and this guy's, so it's like accountability, same as you would for anybody else.
All right, I'm going to skip the next one, Devin. So, godly high school relationship look like?
I can answer that. I think a godly relationship in high school is a friendship. Like, I think it's group, like going on group dates, and I think it's okay to like one another, and I think it's really important that you, in dating, that, I guess it's not saying that a Christian high school relationship, but in a Christian, if you're a Christian and you're in high school and you're dating, I think it's important, like, is this person drawing me closer to the Lord? Am I, I think it's just important that that the focus is just not like each other. I just think it's healthy to have friends and have your life and not just be, the two of you. I see that a lot in relationships in high school, to where they start dating and then they kind of drop off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
They're just gone because they're so focused on each other, and I think that's unhealthy.
Besides that piece too, of does that person point me to Jesus more and more? Do they help me desire the things of God, to be a part of those things, to be growing in my relationship? And some of those things that I would tag along with that would be, am I able to be my total self around this other person? Am I able to be honest? Do I have the freedom to be me? Do I feel like I have to put on an image, or do I fake? Do I have, ultimately, like, is this person a great friend? A great friend where I can be honest, I can be open, I can be myself, and I can expect that they're going to be that way too. I think oftentimes we can lie to ourselves, or feel like we have to be fake, or we have to put on an image, or we get into this impressing game. I don't think that that's a relationship that I would probably classify as a godly relationship. There's a lot of pretense and probably ego wrapped up in that, instead of one where we're our true selves and the best that God wants us to be.
Yeah, so you're even getting at a godly relationship is where I can fully be me and you can fully be you, and that's good enough, and we can pursue each other in Jesus in that. That's good. All right, I'll handle this one unless you guys want to jump in. Is masturbation a sin? If so, why? It's not like I'm hurting anyone. So here's what I would say about that question. The Bible does not talk specifically about masturbation. And here's what I'd say. If you're here tonight and you don't know what masturbation is, that is okay, but what you need to do is go ask your parents. Because if your parents aren't going to talk to you about sex, then you be the one who goes and talks to them about sex, okay? Because we're mature people, you guys are mature, you can handle this. So I want to say that first. But here's what I want to say. The Bible doesn't talk about masturbation, but here's what the Bible does talk about. Ephesians 5:3 says that even a hint of sexual immorality, is the language it uses, is wrong, okay? So even if there's a small little piece that is wrong, if there's something that is leading you to be sexually immoral, or as Brandon phrased earlier, that is making you feel sexual for someone that you aren't in a covenant relationship with, that you haven't committed to, I think that that's wrong. And so when it comes to, the act of masturbation, I think it's really hard to be involved with that without having sexual feelings for someone else in your mind, right? Or in looking at images or whatever. And so For me, that really clarifies it. If you at any point are able or have a hint of sexual immorality, then I would say you are crossing the line and you are in sin. And the second thing I would say is this, is when you're doing that, what you are doing is you are taking the other person and you are making them an object for your pleasure. So like, if we want to really boil this down, what you're doing in that act is saying, hey, God created this person basically for my pleasure. And I'm not even going to go have a conversation with them or get to know them, but this is bringing me pleasure right now. And what we're doing is we're devaluing someone who's actually an image bearer of God. And so I think it's questions that you need to ask yourself. And I think, along the lines of like, hey, it's not hurting anyone. Well, I would probably disagree. I think you're hurting yourself a lot. And I think you're hurting your relationships with your peers. I think you're hurting your relationship with your future spouse. And so I think it is hurting a lot of people, and yourself included. You just can't see it at the moment. So, all right. So many good questions. Do a part two.
Well, part 1.5.
Part 1.5. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna answer a few of these quickly, okay? Next question is this: is oral sex, and is it wrong? So it has the word sex in it, so that's a pretty good indication that it is, in fact, sex. But again, remember, we're gonna use the definition of sexual immorality being anything that makes me feel sexual for someone that I'm not in a covenant relationship, that I haven't committed my life to. So the answer is yes. All of the things of sex are a part of oral sex, so I'm going to go ahead and say that one is wrong. The next question is it bad to date someone who isn't a Christian? I'm assuming that's coming from a Christian perspective. The Bible talks clearly, it uses the language of we shouldn't be unequally yoked, meaning we shouldn't, basically what it's saying is we shouldn't be married to people who aren't Christians. And so the reason why, guys, is I'm just going to tell you, like, marriage, you guys have been married for 21 years, right? We've been married for almost 9 years. Marriage is really hard. It takes a lot. It is probably the hardest thing I would say I've done in my life to this point. And it's probably easier for you because you're married to me, but, just making sure you're all listening, okay? But it is really, really hard. And so if you don't have, if one of you is trying to pursue Jesus and the other one is trying to pursue other things, marriage is hard as it is. If you add that as Jesus being the most important thing in one person's life and not the other, it is going to incredibly complicate and compound all of your marriage problems. And so, yeah, I think if you're in a dating relationship where you're asking that question or you're thinking about dating someone who isn't a Christian, the point of dating is really to see, like, hey, is this someone that I would marry, and pursuing that person. And so if you're doing that and they're not a Christian, I think it's a good question to ask yourself and to contemplate and bring somebody else in. So,
Can I just add?
Yeah.
And if you think that you're a fixer and that you're going to bring them to Christ because that's what God calls us to do, chances are you're going to slip the other way. Chances are the balance is going to go the other way, and they're going to pull you deeper into the darkness than you are going to be pulling them into the light. Chances are. I'm not saying that's true in all cases, but
it's easier to pull someone down than it is to pull someone up.
Don't think that I'm just going to help save him, because chances are slim.